The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive station where representatives from across the galaxy gathered to discuss matters of importance. Today, the room buzzed with unusual energy. Scientists had detected something remarkable, and now everyone wanted to understand what it meant. Commander Ji-Min Park stood near the back of the chamber, watching as the Galactic Council members took their seats. She represented Earth at these meetings, though humanity was still considered young by galactic standards. Most species here had been traveling the stars for millions of years. Humans had only joined them 50 years ago. The head scientist, a tall being with silver skin and 4 arms, activated the central display. A sound filled the chamber. It was old, crackling with interference, but the meaning was clear. A voice spoke in a language the translation system struggled to decode, but the emotion came through perfectly. Fear. Desperation. Hope. This signal has been traveling through space for 80,000 years, the scientist explained. It originated from a star system in the outer rim. The civilization that sent it is called the Vorathi, though we have no records of them. They are clearly extinct now. Ji-Min leaned forward, listening carefully. The voice in the recording continued to speak. The translation systems finally caught up, displaying words on the screen. Is anyone there? We are dying. Our ship is failing. Please, if anyone can hear this, please help us. We have children. We have families. Please do not let us vanish into the dark. The message repeated several times, then ended. The chamber fell silent for a moment. One of the council members, a being that looked like a floating crystal, spoke first. Fascinating, from a historical perspective. We should send archaeologists to investigate the origin point. This could teach us much about extinct civilizations. Another council member nodded. Indeed. Though sad, of course. They clearly died thousands of years ago. Perhaps we can learn what went wrong. Ji-Min felt something twist in her chest. She raised her hand to speak. The council head noticed and gestured for her to continue. With respect, Ji-Min said carefully. Earth would like to propose an actual rescue mission, not just an archaeological study. Ji-Min. Several council members turned to look at her. Some seemed confused. One let out what might have been a laugh. Commander Park, the crystal being said gently. Perhaps you misunderstand. This signal is 80,000 years old. The civilization that sent it died before your species even learned to farm. There is nothing to rescue. We should still go, Ji-Min insisted. Someone called for help. We should answer. The council member with 6 eyes spoke up. But why? It would cost resources, time, and effort to travel there. And for what? To find ancient ruins and dead ships? We can send robots for that. Ji-Min felt her jaw tighten. She had expected this reaction, but it still frustrated her. Because they asked for help, because they were afraid and alone, and they hoped someone would care. Even if they are gone, we should go. We should see. We owe them that much. Owe them? Another council member asked. Commander, your sentiment is understandable, but not practical. They have been dead for longer than most species can imagine. Going there changes nothing. It changes that someone finally answered, Ji-Min said quietly. The council head studied her for a long moment. Humanity is still learning our ways. You see emotions where we see facts. The Vorathi are gone. This is simply how time works. Ji-Min took a breath. On Earth, we have a saying. When someone calls for help, you answer. Even if you are late. Even if you cannot save them. You answer because it is the right thing to do. You answer because someday, you might be the one calling. The chamber grew quiet again. Some council members exchanged glances. Others seemed to be thinking. Earth requests permission to send a ship to investigate, Ji-Min continued. We will not ask for galactic resources. We will go ourselves. We just want to know what happened. We want to honor their call. The council had considered this. You truly wish to waste your resources on this? It is not a waste, Jimin replied. They reached out across the stars, hoping someone good existed in the universe. Someone who would care. We want to show them that someone does, even if we are 80,000 years too late. After a long pause, the council head nodded. Very well. Earth may send its expedition. We will note your decision in the records, though I suspect you will find only disappointment. Jimin bowed slightly. Thank you. As the council moved on to other matters, Jimin stepped out of the chamber. She immediately contacted Earth. The response came quickly. They would send a ship. They would answer the call. 3 weeks later, Jimin stood on the bridge of the Persistence, a human exploration vessel designed for long-distance travel. The crew around her prepared for departure. Dr. Seo-Yun Chang checked the scientific equipment. Lieutenant Han Sol Kim reviewed their route to the distant star system. Course plotted, Commander, Han Sol reported. It will take us 4 months to reach the coordinates. Good, Jimin said. Let us go answer a call that should have been answered long ago. The Persistence pulled away from the station and turned toward the darkness. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued its business, already forgetting about the human ship chasing ghosts. But Jimin remembered the voice in the signal. The fear and hope mixed together, the plea that had traveled across space for 80,000 years, waiting for someone to care enough to respond. We are coming, she whispered to the stars. We heard you. We are coming. The ship jumped into faster-than-light travel, racing toward a system where a civilization had died hoping someone would answer their call. Humanity was finally bringing that answer, even if they were impossibly late. Because some things mattered more than time or practicality. Some things mattered because they defined who you chose to be. 4 months in space changed people. The crew of the Persistence had grown used to the silence, the routine, and the vast emptiness outside their windows. But as they approached the target system, something shifted. Everyone felt it. They were close now. Dropping out of faster than light in 30 seconds, Han Sol announced from the navigation station. His hands moved across the controls with practiced ease. Jimin stood at the center of the bridge, watching the main screen. Around her, the crew prepared for normal space. 4 months of travel were about to end. Whatever they found here would be the answer to a question that had haunted her since hearing that signal. The ship shuddered slightly as it dropped back into normal space. Stars appeared on the screen, sharp and clear. And there, in the distance, a red sun burned dimly. Scanning the system now, Seo-Yun said from her station. Her eyes stayed focused on the data streaming across her screen. 3 planets. 2 gas giants in the outer system. 1 rocky planet closer in. Wait. I am getting something else. What is it? Jimin asked. A ship, Seo-Yun replied, her voice barely above a whisper. A massive ship. Dead in space between the 2nd and 3rd planets. The main screen shifted to show the target. Jimin felt her breath catch. The vessel was enormous, easily 5 times the size of the Persistence. Its hull was dark, pitted with micrometeor impacts from thousands of years drifting, but it was still intact. A generation ship, Han Sol said quietly. They were trying to escape something. Take us closer, Jimin ordered. Carefully. The Persistence moved forward, closing the distance slowly. As they approached, more details became visible. The ship had a cylindrical design, meant to spin for artificial gravity. Parts of it were damaged, but most of the structure remained solid. I am picking up no power signatures, Seo-Yun reported. The ship is completely dead. No heat, no energy, nothing. Can we dock with it? Jimin asked. There appears to be a docking port on the forward section, Han Sol said. It looks compatible with our systems. Old design, but functional. Do it, Jimin decided. The next hour involved careful maneuvering and several tense moments. But eventually, the Persistence connected to the ancient vessel. The docking clamps locked with a solid thunk that echoed through both ships. Ji-min gathered an exploration team. Besides herself, Seo-yun and Han-sol volunteered, along with 3 security officers. They suited up in protective gear, not knowing what atmosphere, if any, remained inside the dead ship. The airlock opened with a hiss. Ji-min stepped through first, her helmet light cutting through absolute darkness. The corridor beyond was wide and tall, designed for beings larger than humans. Frost covered every surface. Temperature is near absolute zero, Seo-yun noted, checking her instruments. No atmosphere. This ship has been dead for a very long time. They moved forward slowly, their lights revealing glimpses of a lost civilization. Writing covered the walls in a flowing script that looked almost artistic. Images showed beings with 4 arms and heads that had 3 eyes arranged in a triangle. The Vorathi. This way, Seo-yun said, following a map she had pulled from the ship's external computer core. There should be a central control room ahead. The control room, when they reached it, told a sad story. Stations were abandoned mid-task. Data screens, long, dark, sat waiting for operators who would never return. In one corner, Ji-min found something that made her stop. A small toy, carved from some kind of wood. It looked like an animal, though not one she recognized. They had families here, she said softly. Children. Commander, Seo-yun called out. Ji-min crossed to where Seo-yun stood before a main console. The scientist had managed to connect a portable power source and was pulling data from the ancient computer. Ship logs, Seo-yun explained. Automated recordings. Let me see if I can translate them. No. The computer worked for several minutes, processing the alien language. Then words began appearing on the screen, translated into human language. The logs told a story of desperation. The Vorathi homeworld had been dying, its sun expanding early. They had built this ship, packed it with as many people as they could save, and fled into space. They hoped to find a new world, a new home. But something had gone wrong. The ship's main power core had failed 20 years into their journey. Life support began failing. They sent their distress signal, broadcasting it in all directions, hoping someone would hear, hoping someone would care. Keep reading, Ji-min said, her voice tight. The logs continued. Days turned to weeks, weeks to months. The Vorathi tried everything to repair their ship, but they lacked the resources. One by one, systems failed. The automated logs recorded it all with cold precision. Then Seo-yun found something else. Commander, there is a section here about emergency protocols. When they knew they could not save everyone, they made a choice. What choice? Han-sol asked. Seo-yun read further, her eyes widening. They put people into stasis. Deep cryogenic sleep. They hoped it would preserve them until rescue came. They prioritized children and young adults. The older generation stayed awake to maintain the systems as long as possible. The logs showed that final, desperate act. Families saying goodbye. Parents putting children to sleep with promises that someone would come. That they would wake up safe. That everything would be fine. Where are the stasis pods? Ji-min asked urgently. Seo-yun checked the ship's layout. Lower decks. Section 7. Commander, those systems would have failed long ago without power. We still need to check, Ji-min insisted. They made their way deeper into the ship, following the map. The stasis chamber was massive, row after row of cylindrical pods stretching into the darkness. Ji-min counted hundreds of them. Power check, she ordered. Seo-yun moved to a control panel and connected her equipment. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, her voice came through the radio, shaking slightly. Commander, I am reading power signatures, very faint, but they are there. Some of these pods are still functioning. Ji-min felt the world shift beneath her feet. What? Emergency backup systems, Seo-yun said, reading faster now. The Vorathi designed the pods to draw power from radioactive decay. Very slow, very stable. They last thousands of years. Commander, I am reading life signs. Faint, but present. There are people alive in these pods. Han Sol checked his scanner. Confirmed. I count 847 active pods. The rest failed over time, but these ones held. Jimin walked forward slowly, approaching the nearest pod. She wiped frost from a small window and looked inside. A face looked back at her, frozen in sleep. A young face with 3 eyes and 4 arms, preserved perfectly. They waited, she whispered. For 80,000 years. They waited for someone to answer their call. Wei. The Redded. End. What do we do? Han Sol asked. Jimin straightened up. We wake them up. We finally give them the answer they have been waiting for. We tell them that someone heard them. That someone came. Around her, the crew stood in the darkness among hundreds of sleeping refugees from a civilization long extinct. They had come looking for the past, and found the present instead. A call for help, 80,000 years old, had finally been answered, and now the real work would begin. Jimin stood in the emergency meeting room aboard the Persistence. On the screen before her, faces from Earth looked back with expressions of shock and disbelief. She had just finished explaining what they had found. Let me make sure I understand correctly, the Earth Council representative said slowly. You found survivors. Actual living beings, in stasis, after 80,000 years. Yes, Jimin confirmed. 847 individuals, mostly young people and children. The older generation sacrificed themselves to give the young a chance. This is remarkable, another council member said. But also very complicated. Do we even know how to wake them safely? Seo Yun stepped forward. I have been studying their medical database. The Vorathi were incredibly advanced in biological sciences. They left detailed instructions for revival, designed for whoever found them. But can we follow those instructions? Someone asked. It is different, Seo Yun admitted, but not impossibly so. They breathe oxygen. Their blood chemistry is similar to ours in basic function, and their cellular structure follows recognizable patterns. I believe we can do this. But we need to be very careful. Jimin looked at the council members. We are asking for permission to begin revival procedures. We also need medical support sent from Earth. This is beyond what our small crew can handle alone. What does the Galactic Council say? Someone asked. We contacted them yesterday, Jimin replied, her voice tight. They advised us to leave the Vorathi in stasis and return home. They said it was too dangerous, too expensive, and too complicated to attempt revival. Silence filled the communication channel for a moment. They want us to leave them? One council member said, shocked. After 80,000 years, they finally get found, and the galaxy says to leave them sleeping? The council's position is that they are effectively already dead, Jimin explained. They argue that waking them would be cruel, bringing them into a universe where their civilization is extinct and they have no place. That is not our decision to make, the Earth Council head said firmly. If they can be saved, we save them. Send us everything you have. We will dispatch medical teams immediately. In the meantime, do what you can. Jimin felt relief flood through her. Thank you. We will begin preliminary work immediately. The communication ended. Jimin turned to her crew. You heard them. Let us get to work. Over the next 3 days, the crew of the Persistence worked to restore power to sections of the Vorathi ship. They connected their own generators to the medical bay, bringing light and warmth to chambers that had been dark for millennia. Seo Yun spent every waking hour studying the Vorathi medical records. She learned their physiology, their chemistry, their biological rhythms. The instructions they had left were detailed and clear, written by people who desperately wanted to make revival possible for whoever found them. They thought of everything, Seo Yun told Jimin. during one late-night work session. Different scenarios, different types of rescuers, different technology levels. They really believed someone good would come. Someone did, Jimin said quietly. We were just very, very late. On the fourth day, Seo-yoon announced she was ready to attempt the first revival. They chose carefully, selecting a pod that contained someone identified in the records as a medical professional. If they succeeded, that person could help with the others. The crew gathered in the medical bay. The chosen pod rested on a specialized table, connected to monitors that tracked life signs. Seo-yoon double-checked every connection, every setting, every detail. Beginning revival sequence, she announced. The pod began to hum softly. Lights activated along its length. Inside, the frozen form started to change as carefully controlled warmth spread through the system. Minutes passed. Then, an hour. The crew watched in tense silence. Heart rate increasing, Seo-yoon reported. Brain activity rising. Cellular metabolism responding. This is working. Another 30 minutes passed. Then the pod's lid unsealed with a soft hiss. Vapor poured out. Inside, 3 eyes slowly opened. The Vorathi looked around with confusion. Their 4 arms moved weakly. Their mouth opened, and sounds came out. Strange sounds, in a language dead for 80,000 years. The translator is working, Seo-yoon said. A moment later, words appeared on a screen. Where am I? What happened? Did someone come? Jimin stepped forward slowly, making herself visible. Yes, she said, speaking clearly, so the translator could process her words. Someone came. You are safe now. The Vorathi's 3 eyes focused on her. Confusion turned to shock, then to something that might have been joy or relief or disbelief all mixed together. You answered. Someone, actually, answered. We did, Jimin confirmed. We heard your call. We came. Tears formed in the Vorathi's eyes. All 3 of them. How long? Jimin hesitated, then decided honesty was necessary. 80,000 years. I am sorry we took so long. The Vorathi lay still for a moment, processing this. 80,000 years. They repeated slowly. Then, everything is gone. Our world. Our people. Everything. Not everything, Jimin said gently. There are 846 others in stasis with you. Children. Young people. The hope your generation protected. The Vorathi's breathing quickened. They survived? The children survived? Yes. Seo-yoon confirmed. And we are going to wake them all up. But we need your help. You are a doctor. According to the records. Keyleth, the Vorathi said. My name is Keyleth. I was a medical researcher. He tried to sit up, struggled, then managed it with help. The children. We have to save the children. Over the next week, Keyleth worked with Seo-yoon and the human medical team that arrived from Earth. Together, they refined the revival process. Keyleth's knowledge of Vorathi biology, combined with human medical technology, created something neither species could have achieved alone. They woke people slowly. First, more medical staff, then engineers, then teachers. Each revival was the same. Confusion, shock at how much time had passed, grief for everything lost, but also relief, joy, gratitude that someone had finally come. A young Vorathi mother woke to find her daughter still asleep in the next pod. She wept as they revived the child. A teacher woke and immediately asked about his students. 2 siblings woke and held each other, grateful they had not been separated by time. With each revival, the same question came. Who are you? Why did you come? And Jimin gave the same answer each time. We are humans from Earth. We came because you called for help. Because that is what you do when someone needs you. The Vorathi struggled to understand this. But we have been gone for so long. Your people did not even exist when we fell asleep. Why would you care? Because you were afraid and alone. Jimin explained simply. Because you hoped someone good existed in the universe. We wanted to prove you were right to hope. Keyleth translated her words to the growing group of awakened Vorathi. They listened in silence. Then, one by one, they approached Jimin and her crew. Some touched their hands in what seemed to be a gesture of gratitude. Others simply bowed. But Jimin understood. Across 80,000 years, across the death of a civilization, across the vast emptiness of space, a call for help had finally been answered, and both species were changed by it. 3 months after the first revival, all 847 Vorathi had been awakened. The generation ship, once a tomb, now bustled with activity, as 2 species worked together to make it livable again. But everyone knew this was temporary. The real question remained unanswered. What happened next? Jimin called a meeting in what had once been the Vorathi Council chamber. Representatives from both species gathered. Keyleth attended, now serving as the main liaison between the Vorathi and humans. The awakened refugees had chosen him because he understood both hope and loss. We need to discuss the future, Jimin began. Earth has offered sanctuary to all of you. You would be welcomed as citizens, given support to rebuild your lives. Keyleth translated for those Vorathi who had not yet learned human languages. Murmurs spread through the group. Some seemed hopeful. Others looked uncertain. Your people would truly do this? An elderly Vorathi asked. Accept us? We bring nothing. We have no money, no resources, no way to repay such kindness. You bring yourselves, Jimin said simply. That is enough. But why? Another Vorathi pressed. We are not your responsibility. You found us. Yes. But you could leave us at any world. Why take on such a burden? Han Sol spoke up from where he stood near the back. Because we answered your call. That means something to humans. When you answer a call for help, you do not stop halfway. You see it through. A young Vorathi, barely an adult, raised one of her 4 hands. What about the Galactic Council? What do they say? Jimin's expression hardened slightly. The Council has advised us to reconsider. They argue that integration would be too difficult, too expensive. Some suggest leaving you here with supplies to rebuild on your own. Anger flashed through the Vorathi group. Keleth's 3 eyes narrowed. Some do, Jimin admitted. But not Earth. Not humanity. We stand by our offer. Why is your species different? Keyleth asked quietly. What makes humans care when others do not? Jimin thought carefully before answering. Maybe it is because we are young. Maybe it is because we remember being alone and afraid in the universe before we met other species. Or maybe it is just who we choose to be. We believe that how you treat someone in need says everything about who you are. A message alert interrupted the meeting. Seo-yun checked it, then looked up with concern. Commander, we have incoming ships, multiple vessels, Galactic Council. Everyone moved to the observation deck. Through the windows, they could see 3 large ships approaching. They took up positions around the generation ship, surrounding it. This is Council Representative Thane. A voice came through the communication system. We are here to take custody of the Vorathi survivors. Earth has exceeded its authority in this matter. Jimin's jaw tightened. She opened a communication channel. Representative Thane, the Vorathi are not prisoners or property to take custody of. They are free beings who can choose their own future. They are refugees from a dead civilization, Thane replied. They require proper placement and integration by experienced species. Humans lack the resources and knowledge for such a task. We seem to be managing fine, Jimin shot back. Your emotional attachment to this situation clouds your judgment, Thane said. We are here to protect both the Vorathi and humanity from a mistake born of sentiment. Keyleth stepped forward, gesturing to Jimin that he wanted to speak. She nodded and activated the video transmission. I am Keyleth of the Vorathi, he said clearly. I speak for my people. We choose to go with Earth. They answered our call when you did not. They saved us when you said to leave us. We trust them because they have earned that trust. You do not understand the situation, Thane argued. You have been asleep for 80,000 years. You know nothing of the current galaxy. I know enough, Keyleth replied firmly. I know who came when we called. I know who worked to save us. I know who offered us a home without asking for anything in return. That tells me everything I need to know. Other Vorathi gathered behind Keyleth, showing their support. Their solidarity was clear. Thane was silent for a moment. Then his tone changed, becoming harder. Very well. If Earth wishes to take on this burden, you are welcome to try. But do not expect galactic resources or support. You do this alone. We have been doing it alone from the start, Jimin pointed out. We are used to it. The Council ships held position for several more hours, as if hoping someone would change their minds. But neither the humans nor the Vorathi wavered. Finally, the Council vessels departed, leaving behind only warnings about the difficulties ahead. That night, Jimin found Keyleth standing in one of the observation areas, looking out at the stars. Can I join you? She asked. Of course. Keyleth replied. He gestured with one of his hands to the stars. Out there somewhere is where my homeworld used to be. I will never see it again. Everything I knew is gone. I am sorry, Jimin said quietly. Do not be, Keyleth said. We knew the risks when we went into stasis. We chose to hope that something good existed in the universe, that someone would care. He turned to look at her with his 3 eyes. You proved we were right. That means more than you know. What will you do on Earth? Jimin asked. You and your people? Live. Keyleth said simply. Build new lives. Share what we know. My people were advanced in many ways. Perhaps our knowledge can help humanity. As much as your kindness helped us. That would be wonderful, Jimin said. But it is not required. We owe you everything, Keyleth corrected gently. You live well, Jimin suggested. You find happiness. You remember that someone cared. That is enough. They stood together in comfortable silence, 2 beings from different species and different eras, connected by a simple act of answering a call. Behind them, Vorathi children played with human crew members, learning new games and teaching old ones. Engineers from both species collaborated on repairs. Teachers shared knowledge and stories. When do we leave for Earth? Keyleth asked. Next week, Jimin replied. We will travel together. All of us. The Persistence and your generation ship. Side by side. I like that, Keyleth said. Not alone anymore. Never alone again, Jimin promised. And as they stood there watching the stars, both knew that something important had changed. Not just for the Vorathi, who had been saved from eternal sleep, not just for humanity, who had proven their values meant more than words, but for the galaxy itself. Because somewhere, someone had finally learned that some calls must always be answered. Some people must always be saved. And some values mattered more than practicality or convenience. The journey to Earth would take months. Integration would take years. Challenges would come. But for now, in this moment, 2 species stood together in the darkness, both changed forever by a signal that traveled 80,000 years, and the answer that finally came. The answer that said, yes, someone is there. Yes, someone cares. Yes, you are not alone. And that made all the difference. 1 year had passed since the Vorathi arrived on Earth. Jimin stood at the window of the Integration Center in Seoul, watching children play in the courtyard below. Human children and Vorathi children ran together, their laughter mixing in the afternoon air. It was a sound that still amazed her every time she heard it. "Commander Park?" a voice said behind her. Jimin turned to see a young assistant approaching. "Just Jimin now," she corrected with a smile. "I retired from active command 6 months ago. Remember? Sorry, old habit," the assistant said. "The Galactic Council is calling. They want to speak with you and Keyleth. They say it is important." Jimin found Keyleth in the research laboratory where he now worked. The Vorathi scientist had adapted well to Earth. Though he still wore the traditional wrappings of his people, he looked up as she entered, his 3 eyes bright with curiosity. "The council wants to talk," Jimin told him. Keyleth set down the equipment he had been calibrating. "About what, I wonder? They have ignored us for a year. Why reach out now?" They made their way to the communication center. On the large screen, the council chamber appeared. The same beings who had dismissed the rescue mission now looked at them with very different expressions. "Commander Park, researcher Keyleth," the council head began formally. "We wish to invite you both to address the council. Your presence is requested for a matter of galactic importance." 1. Jimin exchanged glances with Keyleth. "What matter would that be?" "We would prefer to discuss it in person," the council head said. "We will send a ship for you. Will you come?" After a moment, Jimin nodded. "We will come." 2 weeks later, Jimin and Keyleth stood before the Galactic Council once again. But this time, the chamber was packed. Representatives from dozens of species filled the seats. News crews recorded everything. This was clearly more than a simple meeting. The council head stood. "We have asked you here to discuss the Vorathi integration. It has been 1 year. We wish to know the results." Keyleth stepped forward. "The results are simple. We live, we work, we contribute to human society. We are no longer refugees waiting to die. We are citizens building lives. And the cost to humanity?" Another council member asked. "Surely such integration has been difficult. Changes, processed. Changes, endes. Changes, 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 endes. Changes, changes. It has been expensive," Jimin admitted honestly. "We spent billions on housing, education, medical care, and support services. We redirected resources from other projects. Yes, it has been difficult." "Then you admit it was a mistake?" the crystal being asked. "No," Jimin said firmly. "It was the best decision we ever made." Murmurs spread through the chamber. The council head raised a hand for silence. "Please explain." Jimin took a breath. "The Vorathi brought knowledge we did not have. Their medical technology has already saved thousands of human lives. Their understanding of sustainable energy has helped us solve problems we struggled with for decades. Their agricultural techniques have increased food production by 20%. But more than that, they reminded us why we explore the stars in the first place." "And why is that?" someone asked. "To find others like us," Jimin said simply. "To know we are not alone. To build something together that neither species could build apart." Keyleth nodded. "Humans saved us from death. But we have given them something too. Knowledge. Yes. But also perspective. Sometimes an old civilization can teach a young one valuable lessons." The council head studied them both. "There is another reason we called you here. In the past year, we have received 17 other ancient distress signals. All of them decades or centuries old. Previously, we would have ignored them. But your actions have raised questions we can no longer avoid." "What questions?" Jimin asked. "Whether we have become too focused on practicality," the council head said slowly. "Whether we have forgotten what it means to help someone, simply because they need help. 3 of the signals we received are recent enough that survivors might still be possible. We are debating whether to respond." Jimin felt her heart rate increase. "You should respond. You have to respond. Why? The crystal being asked. You have shown us that integration is possible. Yes. But also expensive and complicated. Why should we take on such burdens? Keyleth moved to the center of the chamber. May I tell you a story? He asked. When no one objected, he continued. 80,000 years ago, my people were dying. We sent a call into the darkness, hoping someone good would hear it. Most of us accepted we would die. But we put our children in stasis because we had hope. Not reasonable hope. Not practical hope. Just hope that somewhere in the vast universe, someone believed that saving lives mattered more than convenience. He paused, looking around the chamber. For 80,000 years, that hope seemed foolish, naive, a waste. But then humans came. They were not the strongest species, not the smartest, not the richest. But they came because they cared. And because they cared, 847 beings who should be dead are alive. Entire bloodlines that should have ended continue. A civilization that should be forgotten lives on. That is one success story, someone argued. It does not guarantee others will work as well. No, it does not, Keyleth agreed. But it guarantees something more important. It guarantees that when someone calls for help, someone will answer. It guarantees that no one will die alone in the dark, wondering if anyone in the universe cares. Can you really put a price on that? I wunges talpint. The chamber fell silent. Jimin watched, as council members looked at each other. Clearly, uncomfortable. Finally, a new voice spoke. A small, elderly being Jimin had never seen before. I am Representative Mirth of the Kellyan people. My species is old. Very old. We have been part of this council for 6 million years. And in all that time, I cannot remember the last time we did something simply because it was right. Not because it was practical. Perhaps we have forgotten what it means to be good. Being good is a luxury the young can afford. Another council member said. Those of us who have survived millions of years know that practicality matters. Does it? Mirth challenged. Humans are young, yes, but they are here. They are thriving. They grow stronger every year. Perhaps there is strength in goodness we have forgotten about. The debate continued for hours. Jimin and Keyleth watched as the council argued about values, resources, responsibility, and the meaning of civilization itself. Finally, the council head called for order. We will vote, the council head announced. The question is this. Should the Galactic Council create a new protocol, requiring response to all distress signals, regardless of age or apparent futility? All in favor? Jimin held her breath. Slowly, hands and appendages rose throughout the chamber. Not all of them. Not even most of them. But enough. The measure passes, the council head said. From this day forward, all distress signals will be answered. We commit to this as a galaxy. No one will call for help without receiving an answer. Keyleth's 3 eyes filled with tears. He turned to Jimin, and she saw her own emotion reflected in his expression. Something fundamental had just changed. After the vote, dozens of species approached them. Some thanked them. Others asked for advice on integration. A few admitted shame at their previous dismissal of the rescue mission. That evening, as their ship prepared to return to Earth, Jimin and Keyleth stood in the observation deck. We did it, Keyleth said quietly. We changed their minds. You did it, Jimin corrected. Your people, your hope, your refusal to stop believing someone good existed. That is what changed things. And humans answering, Keyleth added. Do not forget that. Hope means nothing if no one answers it. Jimin smiled. Then we did it together. Back on Earth, news of the council decision spread quickly. The Vorathi community celebrated. Humans celebrated with them. And in living rooms and schools and workplaces, parents told their children about the signal that traveled 80,000 years and the answer that changed a galaxy. In the years that followed, 17 other ancient calls were answered. Not all resulted in survivors. Some found only ruins and records. But every single call received a response. Every single one was honored. And humanity became known throughout the galaxy, not for their weapons or their wealth or their technology. They became known as the species who proved that answering mattered. That caring mattered. That some values transcended practicality. The Persistence, the ship that had made that first impossible journey, was placed in a museum. Children of all species visited it, learning about the day someone finally answered a call that everyone else had ignored. And on the hull, a new inscription was added. In both human language and Vorathi script, it read simply, "They called, we answered." That is enough, because in the end, that was what mattered most. Not being the strongest, or the smartest, or the richest. Just being the ones who cared enough to answer when someone needed help. Just being the ones who chose kindness over practicality, hope over efficiency, and connection over isolation. Just being the ones who understood that in the vast darkness of space, every call for help deserved an answer, and every being deserved to know they were not alone. The chamber fell silent as the holographic display showed another human colony burning. Ambassador Yoon Ji-woo stood before the Sovereignty Council, her hands clenched at her sides as she watched New Seoul's orbital stations explode into clouds of debris. 16 million people lived on that world. Lived, past tense. The Krethic Dominion didn't take prisoners. Honored council members, Yoon said, forcing her voice to remain steady. This is the 7th world we've lost in 3 months. The Krethic fleet moves through our territory like we don't exist. They ignore every attempt at communication, every offer of peace. They simply destroy and move on. The Vexian representative, a tall creature with crystalline skin that reflected the chamber's blue lighting, made a dismissive gesture with 3 of its 4 arms. Ambassador Yoon, humanity has been in space for barely 150 years. You expanded aggressively into territories the Krethic Dominion has claimed for millennia. This conflict was inevitable. Yoon felt heat rise in her chest. We followed the sovereignty protocols. Every colony was registered. Every expansion request was approved by this council. We did everything by your rules. Rules the Krethics never agreed to, the Talvesh observer noted. The ancient being's voice carried a tone of weary resignation. Your species is new to galactic politics. The Krethic Dominion has existed for 3,000 years. They do not recognize the authority of younger species. Then what use is this council? Yoon demanded. What purpose does the Sovereignty Compact serve if it won't protect its members? The chamber erupted in multiple languages. Some council members argued for intervention. Others warned against provoking the Krethics over the newcomers. Most simply looked uncomfortable, unwilling to risk their own security for a species that had joined the galactic community only 50 years ago. The Krethic war ascendant Thex Vor appeared on a secondary display, his reptilian features twisted in what humans had learned to recognize as contempt. The human infestation will be cleansed within 3 weeks. We will reduce them to their birth world, where they will remain as a reminder to other primitives about the cost of overreaching. Let the council debate. We act. The transmission ended. Yoon stood alone at the speaker's platform, watching the council members avoid her gaze. She'd known this would happen. Everyone had known. Humanity was too new, too weak, too insignificant for the major powers to risk conflict over. But humanity hadn't survived extinction events, world wars, and near self-annihilation by hoping others would save them. Yoon touched the communicator in her ear, sending a coded signal. 3 words that would change everything. Light the fire. Far beyond Neptune's orbit, in a region of space deliberately left blank on all public star charts, something stirred. The facility had been built 90 years ago during the first contact crisis. when humanity first learned they weren't alone, and that the universe was far more dangerous than their optimistic scientists had imagined. Diplomacy had prevailed back then, and the facility had gone dark, its purpose classified beyond top secret, its existence known to fewer than 100 people across all human space. The USS Blackstar had been waiting in the cold and dark for 9 decades. Captain Elena Rodriguez walked onto the bridge of the massive vessel, her crew already at their stations. Every man and woman present had volunteered for this assignment, knowing they might never use these skills. They'd trained in secret, running simulations and drills for a war they hoped would never come. But when the Krethiks started burning human worlds, when the Council chose politics over justice, these people had been ready. "Status report," Elena said, settling into the command chair. "Reactor, approaching full power," Chief Engineer Park Min-soo reported from his station. "Fusion cores are stable. Antimatter injection systems are green. We'll have full power in 40 minutes. 10 maybe 2012. Chief Engineer Park Min-soo. "Weapons, systems charging," Lieutenant Chen called out. "All banks responding. Magazines are loaded and ready. Navigation has plotted the jump to New Busan system," the helm officer added. "Krethik occupation fleet is confirmed at 47 vessels. They're stripping the mining colonies." Elena pulled up the tactical display and studied the enemy formation. 47 ships. By galactic standards, that was an overwhelming force. The Krethik Dominion built their vessels large and powerful, each one capable of reducing a planet's surface to molten slag. Their shields could absorb incredible amounts of energy. Their weapons could punch through standard defenses like tissue paper. But the Krethiks, like most of the galaxy, had spent the last few thousand years refining elegant solutions. Exotic matter manipulation, quantum shield harmonics, plasma containment fields. They'd pursued sophistication and efficiency, building weapons that were marvels of advanced physics. Humanity had taken a different path. When humans learned they were surrounded by species who'd been traveling the stars for millennia, who possessed technology that looked like magic, there had been panic. How could humanity possibly compete? How could they defend themselves against civilizations that had fusion power when Earth was still burning fossil fuels? The answer had been simple, if terrifying. Instead, they'd take the crude, brutal weapons they already understood and refine them to levels the galaxy had never imagined. Nuclear weapons? The galaxy considered them primitive and abandoned them for cleaner energy weapons. Humanity made them cleaner, more focused, and exponentially more powerful. Kinetic weapons? Obsolete compared to particle beams, except when you accelerated them to relativistic speeds and aimed them with inhuman precision. The Blackstar represented humanity's answer to a hostile universe. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't sophisticated by galactic standards. It was a statement written in fire and physics. "We will not go quietly." "Captain, we have authentication codes from Earth Command," the communications officer announced. "We are weapons-free. All protocols released." Elena looked at the faces of her crew. They were scared. She was scared. But fear had never stopped humanity before. "Take us to New Busan," she ordered. "Show them what we are." The Blackstar's drives engaged, tearing a hole in space itself. The ship vanished from its hiding place, leaving only a brief distortion in the fabric of reality. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's reputation for violence wasn't propaganda or bluster. It was history. And history was about to repeat itself in the most spectacular way possible. Somewhere in the depths of space, War Ascendant Thexavor continued his victory celebrations, completely unaware that humanity's restraint had just ended. The Krethiks had wanted to see what humans were capable of when pushed to the edge. They were about to find out. War Ascendant Thexavor watched the mining operations on New Busan with satisfaction. The human colony had resisted for 3 days before their orbital defenses collapsed. Now Krethik extraction teams pulled rare metals from the planet's crust, resources that would fuel the Dominion's expansion for decades. A few 100,000 humans remained on the surface, broken and defeated, learning their proper place in the galactic order. War Ascendant, "We have a contact," his sensor officer announced. Single vessel, emerging from FTL at the system's edge. Thexvor's inner eyelids flickered with amusement. Human? Yes, War Ascendant. Configuration is unknown. Approximately 800 meters in length. It's not broadcasting any identification. 800 meters. Barely a cruiser, by Krethic standards. Thexavor had 47 warships under his command, including his flagship that measured 3 times that size. The humans were either desperate or insane. "Perhaps they've come to beg for their colonists," his tactical officer suggested. "Let them approach," Thexvor ordered. "When they're in range, destroy them. Let the survivors watch their rescuers die." The human vessel moved deeper into the system with steady purpose. It didn't hail. It didn't transmit surrender requests or negotiation offers. It simply continued on a direct course toward the Krethic fleet, its trajectory showing no attempt at evasive maneuvering. "Should we warn them off, War Ascendant?" the communications officer asked. Thexvor considered it. There were protocols for such things, warnings and challenges that preceded combat. But the Dominion had issued plenty of warnings to humanity already. Their worlds burned because they'd ignored them. Fire a warning salvo across their bow. Let them see our power. 3 Krethic destroyers opened fire, their plasma cannons sending brilliant streaks of superheated matter across the human ship's path. The energy discharge could have vaporized a mountain. The human vessel continued forward, apparently unimpressed. "Target their engines," Thexvor ordered. "Disable them." The destroyers adjusted their aim and fired again, direct hits that should have crippled any known vessel. The human ship's shields flared, bright blue, as they absorbed the impacts. Then the shields faded back to their normal luminescence, completely undamaged. Thexvor felt his first flicker of unease. "All destroyers, concentrate fire. Full intensity." Now 12 ships opened fire together, a coordinated barrage that represented enough firepower to crack a moon. The human vessel's shields absorbed it all, the blue glow intensifying but holding firm. And still the ship kept coming. "War Ascendant. They're powering weapons. Finally." Thexvor said. "Show me what pathetic." The human ship fired. The weapon wasn't like anything in the Krethic arsenal. There was no visible beam, no plasma bolt, no particle stream. There was simply a moment where space itself seemed to twist, followed by 3 Krethic cruisers exploding simultaneously. Not damaged, not crippled, exploding, their hulls rupturing from internal detonations that reduced them to expanding clouds of superheated gas and debris. "Report!" Thexvor roared. "Unknown weapon type." The sensor officer's voice shook. "Energy readings are War Ascendant. Those were focused gamma-ray bursts. Nuclear intensity. They punched straight through our shields like they weren't there. Impossible. Nuclear weapons are primitive. Our shields are designed against quantum level." Another salvo. 4 more Krethic ships died, their armor boiling away under thermal loads that exceeded design specifications by orders of magnitude. The human weapon didn't try to overwhelm the shields through elegant physics manipulation. It simply hit them with so much raw energy that the shields became irrelevant. "All ships, evasive action, return fire, all weapons." The Krethic fleet scattered, dozens of warships launching everything they had at the single human vessel. Plasma cannons, particle accelerators, quantum torpedoes. The combined firepower could have sterilized a planet. The human ship's shields flared constantly now, bright blue light washing across its hull. But the shields held, and the human ship kept firing. Thexvor watched his fleet die. Every time the human vessel fired, Krethic ships exploded. There was no pattern to defend against, no weakness to exploit. The humans were using what the galaxy considered obsolete technology, but they'd refined it to terrifying levels of effectiveness. "Launch kinetic interceptors," Thexvor ordered desperately. "If we can't penetrate their shields, we'll crush them with mass." 6 heavy cruisers launched swarms of solid projectiles. Massive chunks of dense metal accelerated to incredible speeds. Thousands of them filled the space between the fleets. The human ship's point defense systems activated, and Thexvor felt his hope die. Streams of what looked like simple railgun fire intersected every single incoming projectile, reducing them to harmless fragments or deflecting them away from the hull. "They're targeting us directly, War Ascendant." Thexvor looked at the tactical display. The human ship had adjusted course and now drove straight toward his flagship. Not maneuvering around the Krethic fleet, not trying elegant tactics, simply pushing through, taking hits that would have destroyed any other vessel, and returning fire that deleted his ships from existence. "All vessels, concentrate fire on that ship. Everything we have." The entire Krethic fleet focused on the single human vessel. The energy discharge lit up the system, sensor arrays overloading from the sheer intensity. For a moment, Thexvor thought they had succeeded. The human ship disappeared behind a wall of explosions and energy discharge. Then it emerged, shields still glowing, still advancing. 17 Krethic ships now, then 14, then 9. "War Ascendant, we must retreat. We are the Krethic Dominion. We do not flee from primitives." Thexvor slammed his fist against his command throne. "Helm, ramming speed. If we cannot kill them from range, we'll tear them apart with our hull." The flagship's massive drives pushed it forward, accelerating toward the human vessel. At their combined speeds, the impact would be catastrophic for both ships. Thexvor didn't care anymore. This human ship had humiliated the Dominion, had destroyed 40 ships in less than 20 minutes. He would take it down with his death if necessary. The human ship adjusted its heading slightly. New weapons ports opened along its hull, smaller than the main batteries. Thexvor had a moment to wonder what they were before the point defense grid opened fire at maximum intensity. His flagship disintegrated. Not exploded. Disintegrated. Thousands of railgun rounds, each one traveling at a significant fraction of light speed, hit the flagship's bow. The kinetic energy was so extreme that the ship's armor didn't shatter or melt. It simply ceased to exist. Molecular bonds overcome by pure kinetic force. The destruction raced backward along the hull faster than Thexvor could process what was happening. His last thought was that the galaxy had been wrong about humanity. They weren't primitives playing with technology they didn't understand. They were apex predators who'd been holding back, hoping they wouldn't need to show their teeth. The flagship's reactor breached, adding a small sun to the debris field. Captain Elena Rodriguez watched the last Krethic vessel break apart on her displays. 17 minutes from first contact to complete fleet destruction. She felt no joy in it, no satisfaction, just a cold certainty that this was necessary. "Status report," she said quietly. "Shields at 73% and recharging," Chief Engineer Park reported. "Hull damage is minimal. We took some hits that got through, but nothing critical. We're fully operational. Any Krethic survivors?" "Detecting 17 escape pods. Some of them are broadcasting distress signals." Elena nodded. "Dispatch recovery drones. Bring them aboard and provide medical attention. Then, open a channel on all frequencies." She waited for the communications officer to signal ready, then spoke clearly. "This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the United Earth ship Blackstar to all Krethic forces in human territory. New Busan is liberated. You have 24 hours to withdraw from all human systems. Any Krethic military vessel found in our space after that deadline will be destroyed without warning." She paused, letting that sink in. "We don't want this war. We never did. But if you force us to fight, we will burn everything you send against us. Leave now, while you still can." The transmission ended. Elena sat back in her chair, looking at the debris field that had been a Krethic occupation fleet. Somewhere out there, the Sovereignty Council was receiving reports of this battle. They'd be terrified, she knew. Humanity had just demonstrated capabilities no one expected, using weapons the galaxy considered obsolete. Good. Let them be afraid. Fear bred respect, and humanity desperately needed both. Set course for the next occupied system, she ordered. We have 6 more colonies to liberate. And if the Krethiks want to send more fleets, we'll show them the same courtesy we showed this one. The Blackstar turned away from New Busan, leaving behind a planet freed from occupation and a debris field that would become legend. The fire had been lit, and it would not be extinguished until every human world was free. The Sovereignty Council's emergency session convened within hours of the New Busan incident. Holographic projections filled the chamber, showing the debris field from dozens of angles. 47 Krethik warships reduced to scrap in 17 minutes. By a single human vessel. Ambassador Yoon stood at the speaker's platform again, but this time the council members weren't avoiding her gaze. They were staring at her with expressions ranging from shock to outright fear. You said humanity was defenseless, the Vexian representative accused. You pleaded for our intervention because your species couldn't protect itself. This was a deception. We asked for help because we hoped to avoid this, Yoon replied calmly. The Blackstar represents humanity's worst-case scenario. The weapon we built when we realized the galaxy might not be friendly. We hoped we'd never need to use it. How many more ships like this do you have? The Talvesh observer asked. Yoon smiled slightly. Enough. That simple answer sent ripples through the council. In truth, humanity had 3 more vessels of similar capability, with 2 still under construction. But the galaxy didn't need to know the exact numbers. Let them wonder. Let them imagine humanity had a dozen such ships hidden away. The Krethik Dominion has issued a declaration. The Luminar Compact representative spoke up. Their species was known for peaceful mediation, which made their next words all the more shocking. They're committing their 2nd and 5th armadas to hunt down and destroy the Blackstar. Over 300 warships. They're going to throw fleets at it until it breaks, the Vexian said. Even that monster can't stand against those numbers. Yoon said nothing. She simply waited, knowing that somewhere in human space, Captain Rodriguez had received the same intelligence and was already moving to intercept. The Blackstar didn't wait for the Krethik armadas to coordinate their attack. Elena had learned long ago that initiative won battles. Let the enemy react to you, not the other way around. Contact at the FTL jump point, Lieutenant Chen reported. Krethik Patrol Squadron, 8 destroyers. Standard ambush formation, Elena noted, studying the tactical display. The Krethiks had positioned themselves at the edge of the system, waiting to catch human ships as they emerged from faster-than-light travel, vulnerable during the few seconds it took to reorient. Take us in, Elena ordered. The Blackstar dropped out of FTL precisely where the Krethiks expected. Their weapons were already firing, plasma bolts converging on the human ship's last known position. But Elena had anticipated this. The Blackstar emerged with its momentum already angled away from the trap, shields at maximum strength, weapons hot. The ambush lasted 43 seconds. When it ended, 8 more Krethik vessels joined the growing list of destroyed ships. Next target? Elena asked. Chief Engineer Park pulled up a list of reported Krethik positions. Supply depot at Kepler Station. Heavily defended. They're using it as a staging area for reinforcements. Perfect. Plot a course. For the next 3 days, the Blackstar sat in orbit above Kepler Station and systematically destroyed every Krethik vessel that arrived. Some came alone, responding to distress calls. Others arrived in groups, thinking numbers would overwhelm the human ship. None of them left. The crew watched the battle counter climb. 17 ships on day 1, 23 on day 2, 14 on day 3. As the Krethiks finally learned to stop sending reinforcements. They're adapting, Weapons Officer Chen observed during a brief lull. That last group tried to jump in at maximum range. Hit us from multiple angles simultaneously. Still died, though. Park noted grimly from his engineering station. Their shields can't handle our weapons. The physics don't work in their favor. 2,000. Elena listened to her crew discuss the battles with a mix of professional pride and deep unease. They were good at this. Too good. Humanity had spent thousands of years perfecting warfare against itself. And now those hard lessons were being applied against species who'd grown comfortable with their technological superiority. "Captain, I'm picking up a contact on long-range sensors," the communications officer announced. "It's broadcasting Krethic medical transponders. Hospital ship with civilian transport escorts." Elena sat forward. Here was the test. The Krethic hospital ship was fleeing the combat zone, probably filled with wounded from previous engagements. The transports likely carried civilian refugees. Krethics abandoning the forward territories as the human advance continued. "Weapons status?" she asked. "Locked and ready, Captain. We can intercept in 20 minutes. Elena thought about the burned colonies. The millions of humans killed in unprovoked attacks. The Krethic war ascendant who'd boasted about reducing humanity to their homeworld. It would be so easy to destroy these ships. To show the Krethics that humanity could be just as merciless. "Stand down, weapons," she ordered. The Krethic commander appeared on screen, his reptilian features showing obvious fear. He started to speak, probably to plead for mercy. But Elena cut him off. "You're carrying wounded and civilians. We're not going to fire on you. Continue your course out of human space. But understand this. We're letting you go because we choose mercy, not because we lack the capability to destroy you. Tell your military commanders that humanity draws a line between soldiers and innocents. We're not monsters, we're not conquerors. But we will burn every military asset you have until you stop attacking us." The Krethic commander stared at her for a long moment, then gave what humans had learned to recognize as a gesture of respect. "I will convey your message. Captain, I will also report that you honored the conventions of war when your enemies did not." The transmission ended. The hospital ship and its escorts continued away from the combat zone, unmolested. "Sir," Chen said quietly, "the Second Armada is moving to intercept us. They've figured out our position." Elena pulled up the tactical data. 147 Krethic warships, moving in a coordinated formation designed to trap a single vessel. They'd learned from previous engagements, approaching from multiple vectors to prevent escape. "They think they can corner us," Park observed. "Let them think that," Elena said. "Take us into the Helios asteroid field. Dense formation. Lots of cover. Make them work for it." The Blackstar dove into the asteroid field, a chaotic region of tumbling rock and ice that made sensor tracking difficult. The Krethic Armada followed, breaking into smaller groups to search the field efficiently. They'd made a critical mistake. They'd entered terrain that favored the human ship. The running battle through the asteroid field lasted 6 hours. The Blackstar would emerge from behind a large asteroid, fire a devastating salvo, then disappear back into cover before the Krethics could concentrate their return fire. The asteroids themselves became weapons, as the Blackstar's kinetic batteries shattered them into clouds of high-velocity fragments that tore through Krethic shields. The Krethics tried everything. They attempted to drive the Blackstar into kill zones with coordinated sweeps. They used the asteroids for cover themselves, setting their own ambushes. They even tried to collapse portions of the field with massive energy discharges, hoping to bury the human ship under falling rock. Nothing worked. Captain Rodriguez and her crew knew this environment, had trained for exactly this kind of combat. They turned the asteroid field into a shooting gallery where Krethic numbers meant nothing, and the Blackstar's ability to shrug off damage made it nearly invincible. When the Second Armada finally retreated, they'd lost 89 vessels. The Blackstar emerged from the asteroid field with shield strength at 40% and minor hull damage that Park's engineering teams were already repairing. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command," the communications officer reported. "They want us to return for resupply and crew rotation." Elena shook her head. "Tell them negative. We're not done. Every day we spend docked is another day the Krethics have to reorganize. We keep the pressure on, sir." The crew has been in combat rotation for 6 weeks. We need rest. The colonists on the occupied worlds don't get rest, Elena said quietly. Neither do we. Not until they're all free. She knew she was pushing her people hard. Knew that they were tired. That the constant combat was wearing them down. But she also knew that momentum was everything in war. The Blackstar had the Krethiks reeling, unsure how to counter a threat that violated all their assumptions about combat. If humanity gave them time to adapt, to develop new strategies, the advantage would slip away. Plot a course for the next occupied system, she ordered. We've liberated 4 colonies. We have 6 more to go. And then we're taking the fight into Krethik territory proper. They want to know what we're capable of? We'll show them. We'll show the entire galaxy that humanity doesn't start wars, but we sure as hell know how to finish them. The Blackstar turned toward its next target, leaving behind another debris field and another legend. Across Krethik space, military commanders were beginning to panic. Across the Sovereignty Council, species were re-evaluating their understanding of humanity, and in the depths of their hidden shipyards, humans were building more vessels like the Blackstar, preparing for a future where they would never again have to beg others for protection. The fire was spreading, and it showed no signs of stopping. The Sovereignty Council chamber had never been this full. Every member species had sent their highest representatives. Even species who normally avoided council politics had arrived, drawn by reports of the human warship that was systematically dismantling one of the galaxy's major military powers. Ambassador Yoon stood at the center of it all, surrounded by holographic displays showing the Blackstar's campaign. 73 systems liberated or abandoned by Krethik forces. 4 entire armadas shattered. Economic projections showing the Krethik dominion facing potential collapse within months if the losses continued. This must stop, the Vexian representative declared, its crystalline form reflecting the blue light of the displays. The Blackstar has proven its point. Humanity can defend itself, but this has gone beyond defense. You're destroying an entire civilization. We're destroying their military capability. Yoon corrected calmly. Every engagement has been against armed vessels. Every colony that surrendered was treated fairly. Every civilian transport has been allowed safe passage. The Krethiks started this war by burning our worlds without warning. We're ending it by removing their ability to threaten anyone ever again. You speak of restraint, another council member interjected. But our intelligence reports suggest you have additional vessels of this class. How many? Where are they? Yoon smiled. The Blackstar is our mercy. Our willingness to show the galaxy that we can be reasoned with. Would you prefer to meet the ships we built for war? Without restraint? Load. Wethian Hope Servant. The chamber fell silent. It was a bluff. Mostly. Humanity had 3 more vessels approaching operational status. But they weren't significantly more powerful than the Blackstar. The difference was psychological, not practical. But the Council didn't know that, and their fear was doing more to protect humanity than any fleet could. The Talvesh Collective has completed its analysis of human weapons technology. Their species had been spacefaring for over 10,000 years, and were considered the galaxy's foremost experts on military technology. The results are troubling. A new holographic display appeared, showing detailed breakdowns of Blackstar's weapon systems. Yoon recognized the gamma-ray lance configurations, the relativistic kinetic batteries, the point defense grids. All of it was supposed to be classified. But she wasn't surprised the Talvesh had figured it out. These weapons are not sophisticated by our standards, the Talvesh continued. They don't manipulate exotic matter. They don't use quantum entanglement for targeting. They're based on principles we mastered and abandoned thousands of years ago as crude and inefficient. Then why are they so effective? The Luminar representative asked. Because humanity never stopped developing them. While we pursued elegance and efficiency, they pursued pure output. A gamma-ray lance is simple physics, a focused nuclear explosion channeled through magnetic containment. We abandoned them because they're difficult to power and create dangerous radiation. Humans solved the power problem and learned to focus the radiation so precisely that it becomes a surgical weapon. They took our discarded tools and perfected them. The Talvesh paused, letting that sink in. The real concern is what this tells us about human psychology. They didn't invent new physics. They took the most destructive weapons they could understand and made them better. This is a species that has spent its entire existence perfecting the art of killing itself. Now they're applying those lessons to galactic warfare. Are you suggesting humanity is a threat to the entire galaxy? The Vexian demanded. I'm suggesting that humanity is what happens when a violent, aggressive species is left alone to develop without guidance. They've been in space for 150 years. In that time, they've built weapons that can challenge civilizations thousands of years older. What will they be capable of in another century? Yoon felt anger rising in her chest, but she kept her voice level. The Talavesh Collective is correct that humanity has a violent history. We nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times before we reached space. But they're wrong about what that means. We didn't learn how to build better weapons. We learned when to stop using them. The Blackstar could have bombarded Krethic colonies. It could have killed billions in retaliation for our losses. It hasn't. That's the lesson we learned from our violent past. Knowing when to show mercy is more important than knowing how to kill. Noble words, the Vexian said. But the Krethic Dominion is preparing something desperate. Our intelligence has intercepted communications about a planet-killer weapon. If they can't stop the Blackstar conventionally, they're considering using it against Earth itself. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Planet-killer weapons existed. Ancient technology that most species possessed, but never used. Held as the ultimate deterrent. The idea that the Krethics would actually deploy crossed lines that even the most cynical council members thought were sacrosanct. This is the danger, the Talvesh said. Humanity has pushed the Krethics to the point of desperation. They will do anything to stop the Blackstar, including actions that will destabilize the entire galactic order. Yoon accessed her communicator, sending an urgent message to Earth Command. If the Krethics launched a planet killer, humanity had to be ready to respond. But how did you defend against a weapon designed to crack planets? The Council must decide, the Luminar representative said. Do we intervene to stop the Krethics from using the planet killer? Or do we allow this conflict to reach its natural conclusion? This is. We have the plan. We have doing we have doing teller. You mean do we protect humanity, or let the Krethics solve your human problem for you? Yoon said bitterly. Ambassador, that's not fair, the Talvesh responded. Many of us opposed the Krethic aggression from the beginning. But we also can't ignore the threat that human military capability poses to galactic stability. Agter. Quote, the debate raged for hours. Species argued about intervention, about principles, about the balance of power. Yoon listened to it all with growing frustration. The galaxy was so concerned about human military strength that they were missing the larger point. Humanity didn't want to be warriors. They wanted to be explorers, scientists, traders, but the galaxy had taught them that respect came through strength, and now everyone was surprised that humans had learned the lesson. Finally, 3 species broke ranks. The Talvesh, despite their concerns about human psychology, voted to share intelligence about the planet killer with humanity. The Luminar Compact, true to their principles of protecting innocent life, voted the same, and surprisingly, the Vexians joined them, citing the importance of maintaining the taboo against planet-killer weapons. The Council will provide humanity with full intelligence on the Krethic planet-killer weapon, including its trajectory and capabilities, the Talvesh announced. We will also offer military support to intercept it before it reaches Earth. Yoon felt a wave of relief, then caught herself. This wasn't altruism. The Council species were terrified that if a planet killer was actually used, it would shatter the fragile peace that kept the galaxy from descending into total warfare. They were protecting their own interests as much as humanity's. We appreciate the intelligence, Yoon said carefully. But we decline the military support. Humanity will handle the planet killer ourselves. Ambassador. That's madness, the Luminar representative protested. You can't possibly intercept a weapon of that magnitude without what? Without help from species who sat and watched our colonies burn. Without support from a council that only acts when it suits their own interests? Yoon's voice was hard now. Humanity has learned to rely on ourselves. We'll stop the planet killer. And then, Captain Rodriguez is going to finish what the Krethiks started. She ended the connection before anyone could respond, leaving the council chamber in uproar. As the hologram faded, Yoon allowed herself a moment of exhaustion. She was so tired of political games, of species treating humanity like children or threats, but never equals. Her communicator chimed. Captain Rodriguez's face appeared, the bridge of the Blackstar visible behind her. We received the intelligence from council sources, Elena said. The planet killer is en route to Earth. 6-week transit time through FTL. We're moving to intercept, but Ambassador, even the Blackstar can't take a direct hit from that weapon. You won't have to, Yoon replied. Earth Command is dispatching the Horizon's Edge and the Prometheus to join you. Our other capital ships are coming out of hiding. The galaxy wanted to see what we're capable of when pushed. Show them, Captain. Show them all. Elena's expression was grim. We're 3 days from Krethik Prime. Their home fleet is their last major defensive force. 400 warships. If we go through them, we'll be at the heart of their civilization. I know. And when you get there, remember that we're fighting for peace, not revenge. The Krethiks need to learn that humanity can be brutal when necessary, but that we choose mercy when possible. Burn their fleet, spare their world, show them what we are. Understood. Blackstar out. The transmission ended. Yoon sat alone in the human delegation's quarters, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Captain Rodriguez and her crew were preparing for the largest battle of this war. And somewhere else, a planet-killer weapon was racing toward Earth, carrying the Krethiks' last, desperate gamble. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity had always known. That humans were at their most dangerous not when they were winning, but when they were cornered and fighting for everything they loved. The Krethiks had started this war thinking humanity was weak. They were about to learn their mistake in the most devastating way possible. And the Sovereignty Council, which had refused to help when help was needed, would have to watch and wonder if they'd made the right choice in letting humanity fight alone. Because after this was over, there would be no going back. Humanity would emerge from this conflict as either a respected power or a terrifying threat. The Council's indecision had ensured they'd have no say in which it would be. The Krethik Emperor stood before the holographic display showing his crumbling empire. 73 systems lost, hundreds of ships destroyed. His military commanders argued and blamed each other. But none of them had solutions. The human vessel called Blackstar had done what should have been impossible, breaking the power that the Dominion had spent 3,000 years building. The planet killer has launched, his War Council leader reported. The Emperor's inner eyelids flickered with uncertainty. And if they do stop it, if they have hidden capabilities we haven't seen, then it won't matter. The War Council leader said grimly. Our home fleet is the last defense. 400 warships, our finest vessels, crewed by our most experienced warriors. Even if the humans have more ships like the Blackstar, they cannot overcome such numbers defending our homeworld. The Emperor wasn't so sure. Everything they'd believed about human capabilities had been proven wrong. But what choice did he have? The planet killer was already launched. The home fleet was positioned. All he could do now was wait and pray to the old gods that Krethik's strength would prove sufficient. 3 days later, the USS Blackstar emerged at the edge of the Krethik Prime system. But it wasn't alone. 2 more human vessels appeared alongside it. Slightly smaller, but clearly of similar design. The Horizon's Edge and the Prometheus, humanity's other capital ships, had come out of hiding. On the Blackstar's bridge, Captain Elena Rodriguez studied the tactical display, 400 Krethek warships in defensive formation around their homeworld. It was every ship the Dominion had left, their absolute final reserve. Behind them, billions of Krethek civilians lived their lives, unaware that the war was about to arrive at their doorstep. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Krethek Home Fleet," the communications officer reported. "They're demanding we withdraw or be destroyed." Elena didn't respond to the Krethek message. Instead, she opened a channel to the Horizon's Edge and Prometheus. "All ships. This is Rodriguez. You know the plan. We go straight through their formation. Don't stop. Don't slow down. Our shields can take their weapons. Keep firing until they break or surrender. But remember, our goal is their fleet, not their planet. We're here to end the war, not commit genocide." The acknowledgements came back immediately. Both ships were commanded by officers Elena trusted. People who understood the difference between necessary force and meaningless cruelty. "All ships, advance." The 3 human vessels accelerated toward the Krethek formation at maximum combat speed. The home fleet opened fire at extreme range. Hundreds of weapons creating a wall of energy that filled space itself. The human ships' shields flared brilliant blue as they absorbed the onslaught, and the humans fired back. The gamma-ray lances struck first, invisible beams of focused radiation that punched through Krethek shields and boiled armor from the inside out. Then the kinetic batteries opened up, relativistic projectiles that hit with the force of tactical nuclear weapons. The Krethek front line simply disappeared. 23 ships destroyed in the opening salvo. "Maintain course," Elena ordered, as her ship shuddered from incoming fire. "All batteries, continuous fire. Target their capital ships first." The battle that followed was brief but apocalyptic. The 3 human vessels drove straight through the Krethek defensive formation like spears through cloth. They didn't try to maneuver elegantly or avoid damage. They simply tanked everything the Kretheks threw at them and returned fire that deleted entire squadrons. The Krethek home fleet had never lost a major engagement in their 3,000-year history. They were experienced, disciplined, and fighting to protect their homeworld. None of it mattered. The humans fought with a terrible efficiency that the Kretheks couldn't match, using weapons that violated every assumption about proper warfare. Within the first hour, the Krethek fleet had lost 1/3 of its ships. Within the second hour, over half. The surviving vessels tried everything. Ramming attacks that the human point defense shredded before they could connect, coordinated strikes that couldn't penetrate shields, designed to absorb nuclear-level impacts, desperate retreats that only exposed them to more devastating fire. Chief Engineer Park monitored the Blackstar's systems with growing concern. "Captain, shields are down to 40%. We're taking more damage than any previous engagement. Hull breaches on decks 7 and 12. Can we maintain combat operations?" "Yes, but if we take many more direct hits, then we'll take them," Elena said flatly. "We don't stop until this is over." 2 hours into the battle, the Krethek home fleet ceased to exist as a coherent fighting force. Scattered groups of ships fled toward the outer system. Individual vessels drifted, crippled, and helpless. The space around Krethek Prime was filled with debris and expanding gas clouds where proud warships had once stood. The 3 human vessels sat above the Krethek homeworld, their weapons still charged, their shields battered but holding. Below them, billions of Kretheks waited for the bombardment that would surely come, for the revenge that humanity had every right to claim. Elena opened a channel on all frequencies, broadcasting to every receiver in the Krethek system. "People of the Krethek Dominion, this is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the United Earth ship Blackstar. Your fleet is destroyed. Your military power is broken. We have the capability to reduce your homeworld to ash." She paused, letting the words sink in. "But we won't, because that's not who we are." She pulled up the data stream showing the planet-killer weapon, transmitted by the Sovereignty Council. "Your Emperor launched a weapon at Earth. A planet killer, designed to destroy our homeworld and everyone on it. We could do the same to you. We could be the monsters you thought we were. But we're not going to take revenge on civilians for the crimes of your military. The transmission included full technical readouts of the planet killer, its trajectory, its capabilities. And then it showed something else. Footage of human frigate squadrons intercepting the weapon 2 weeks earlier, disabling it with precise strikes that neutralized its warheads without triggering them. The Krethiks had never known the weapon failed. The humans had stopped it and said nothing, letting the Krethiks believe their last, desperate gamble was still in play. We stopped your planet killer, Elena continued. Not because we lacked the ability to use our own, but because destroying worlds isn't something civilized species should do. We're fighting this war to protect our people, not to commit genocide. Your military chose war. Your emperor chose escalation. But your civilians don't deserve to die for those choices. She looked directly into the camera, knowing her words were being heard across the Krethik Dominion and likely being transmitted throughout the galaxy by countless intelligence services. Humanity came to the stars hoping for peace. We found indifference and then war. The Blackstar and her sisters were built because we learned that respect isn't freely given in this galaxy. You have to earn it. We've earned it now, written in the wreckage of 4 armadas and painted across your home sky. But respect without mercy is just tyranny. We want peace. We've always wanted peace. Your military forced us to show our strength. Now we're choosing to show our mercy. 14. We've knew. The broadcast ended. For several minutes, there was silence across every channel. Then the Krethik Emperor himself appeared on screen, his scaled features showing exhaustion and something that looked like relief. Captain Rodriguez, the Krethik Dominion, formally requests terms of surrender. The negotiations took 6 hours. Elena insisted on involving Ambassador Yoon via tight beam communication, knowing that diplomacy was outside her expertise. The terms were surprisingly moderate. Complete withdrawal from all human territory, reparations for colony reconstruction, an exchange of embassies and diplomatic missions, and mutual defense clauses that would bind the Krethiks and humanity to defend each other if either faced external threats. The Krethiks agreed to everything. They had no choice. But more than that, they seemed to recognize that humanity was offering them a dignified exit from a war they'd started and lost. The alternative was continued devastation until nothing remained of their military power. Ambassador Yoon arrived via diplomatic transport for the formal treaty signing. She stood in orbit above Krethik Prime, surrounded by the debris of the home fleet, and addressed both the Krethiks and the watching galaxy. Humanity didn't want this war. We asked the Sovereignty Council for help and were refused. We were told we were too new, too weak, too insignificant to matter. So we stopped asking for permission and started taking care of ourselves. Her voice was hard. The Blackstar and her sisters represent humanity's answer to a galaxy that judges strength above all else. We can be as brutal as any species when we need to be. But we choose not to be, unless we have no other choice. The Talvesh observer, present via hologram, spoke up. The Sovereignty Council recognizes that its inaction forced humanity to take measures that have destabilized the galactic order. We also recognize that humanity's restraint in victory demonstrates qualities that the galaxy desperately needs. The Council formally recognizes humanity's full membership status and extends protection under the Covenant of Civilized Worlds. Better late than never, Yoon said dryly. But we'll accept. Not because we need your protection anymore, but because we still believe in the ideals the sovereignty was supposed to represent. Peace. Cooperation. Species working together, instead of conquering each other. She looked at the Krethik Emperor. Your military attacked us because they thought we were weak. They were wrong. But I hope both our species can learn from this. Strength doesn't have to mean conquest. Power doesn't have to mean oppression. We can be strong and still choose peace. That's what separates civilized species from barbarians. The the treaty was signed. The Krethic Dominion would withdraw from human space and pay reparations. Humanity would cease military operations and return to defensive postures. Both species would establish embassies and work toward lasting peace. As the ceremonies concluded, Captain Rodriguez stood on the Blackstar's bridge and watched her crew. They looked exhausted. The ship showed damage from dozens of engagements, hull plates scarred and blackened, shield generators running at reduced capacity. They'd fought for months without rest, liberated every occupied colony, and brought the war to the enemy's homeworld. "Captain, Earth Command is requesting we return for repairs and crew rotation," Chief Engineer Park reported. "Tell them we're coming home," Elena said quietly. "But first, plot a course past New Sol. I want to see what we fought for." The Blackstar limped through human space, passing colony after colony that was beginning to rebuild. New Sol's orbital stations were under reconstruction, new structures rising from the ruins. The planet's surface showed scars from the Krethic occupation, but also signs of recovery. Humanity was resilient. They always had been. 6 months later, the USS Blackstar underwent formal decommissioning at Luna shipyards. The ship that had burned its way through the Krethic Dominion would be preserved as a museum, a reminder of what humanity was capable of when pushed to the edge. But 3 new vessels were already under construction at hidden facilities. Not pure warships like the Blackstar, but exploration and defense platforms that could protect human interests while supporting the peaceful expansion humanity had always wanted. The galaxy had forced humanity to become warriors. Now humanity would show them that warriors could also be builders, explorers, and friends. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood at a viewport on Luna Station, looking at the Blackstar one last time. The ship had done its job. It had shown the galaxy that humanity couldn't be bullied or ignored. That respect had to be earned, but so did trust. That the fire that consumed the Krethic war machine could also warm those who chose friendship over conflict. The galaxy was learning what humans had always known, that the most dangerous species wasn't the one with the biggest weapons, but the one who knew when to use them and when to put them away. Humanity had lit its fire and shown what it could do. Now it was time to show what could be built in the light of those flames: peace, understanding. A future where no species had to build a Blackstar, because the galaxy finally learned to protect its own. That future was worth fighting for, and if necessary, it was worth fighting for again.